Okay, so that's one of the things, if you want to talk about, that the Antichrist is doing. He's also, at the same time, all right, working with all of this stuff, he is erecting a false church to propagate a false message. Let's talk about that. Revelation 17:3. So he carried me away into the spirit, into the wilderness. I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This goes back into the Old Testament. And we talked about, if you want to know the book of Revelation, it's like Union Station with the trains. You got a bunch of trains coming in from all over the place, and they've got different baggage on each train. And if you want to find out where all the stuff came from, you got to put it all together. Now, we've got baggage coming in here from the Old Testament that tells us another area that the Antichrist is working on, and that's transforming the world through a false religion. Take us there.
Well, remember, we talked about several things happening at one time. You just mentioned that. I would say chapter 17 of the book of Revelation is somewhat of a backdrop behind that first 3.5 years of the tribulation period. Those 7 seals that I just went through, those will be happening during that first half, the first 3.5 years of the tribulation period. But as John said, over in Rome, Italy, and that we get from the fact that this message that is given to Jesus to give to John through the angel talks about in chapter 17, 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 9 says, he that hath wisdom can recognize the 7 heads represent the 7-hilled city. Now at the time, 95 AD, when John wrote the book, the most famous of all 7-hilled cities, there were others, but the most famous was Rome, Italy, and everybody would know what John was talking about, what he would write down there in that 9th verse. Also, the word beast is used 8 times in the book of Revelation, chapter 17. By the way, that Antichrist we talked about, he's referred to as the beast. In fact, the word Antichrist is not mentioned in Revelation, but the word beast is. From chapter 13, verse 1, I saw a beast rise up out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. And so we have to determine now the 7 heads were the 7 mountain city of Rome, and those 10 horns. When you go to verse 12, it's talking about a group of economic, political, governmental operations coming together, and the Antichrist is going to empower them. Now that would be a phrase we've not mentioned before. That would be the revived Roman Empire, who are major players throughout the entire 7-year period of time, but they come about at the beginning of the 7 year. Remember, the book of Revelation 17 talks about a backdrop, which is this false church headquartered in Rome, Italy. The word harlot is used there in verse 5 of chapter 17, and then 3 other times the word whore is used. So 4 times we're talking about a non-virtuous, non-virgin woman who is going to be representing the false church there in chapter 17. In fact, the word woman is used 6 times. We're talking about 10 times this false type of a woman, a non-virtuous, non-virgin woman. Remember, the church is the bride of Christ. And as Paul writes in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 2, I am jealous over you with godly jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. So we're seeing now, again, apocalyptic literature, a symbol that represents the false church there in chapter 17.